Know your enemy.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. I hope you are enjoying your day. On today's episode of the podcast, we have the current and recent European Open individual gold medal winner in the small category, Martin Reid. Today's podcast is sponsored by QMe Agility Training. It's an online training platform for everyone who competes in dog agility. It is run by the one and only Dave Munnins, and it has modules on literally everything you could ever need to be a successful agility partnership. All in one place, all on one platform. So if you think you need help with anything, take a look at the website and I'm sure Dave will be able to help you get it sorted. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to either myself or to Dave directly. I hope you enjoy the podcast. Welcome along, and who have we got today?
We've got me, Martin Reid.
Martin Reid. So, Martin Reid, but who are you today? Who do you see yourself as? If someone says, who is Martin Reid, who are you?
Oh my God, I wasn't prepared for this type of question.
Well, we're going in deep quick.
I am Martin Reid, live in England. I've done dog agility for nearly 20 years, which is showing my age, 30 this year. So not too far off for 20 years. And we've just returned back from the European Opens 2023.
You say you've been doing it 20 years. You've got no greys. You're looking good, Mark.
Apparently, Nara did find a grey at one point in the back of my hair, and I said, "Wow, your dog's a grey as well." So it must be progressive with you.
So you say how long you've been doing it. How did you initially get into agility?
Originally, it was my parents were doing it just at the local dog club. They went down, they had a go, they liked it. Occasionally, I would, don't know whether I'd go with them or be taken with them, either one. And then for months and months and months, I was like, "Oh, let's have a go, I'll give it a go." And then they were like, no, it's my dog, blah, 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 blah. So it sat there. And then eventually, 6 months after begging, I think it's for my 11th birthday, they got me my dog, Moss, who was a rescue dog from, I think, Border Collie Trust or something like that. And then I started with him. Obviously, I was only 11 at the time, so at school, and mom and dad had to help out a lot, obviously. But that was how I started and got into it.
So you start. I was going to say, because obviously my son now is 9 years old, and he's just now started showing a little bit of interest in doing it. So he's not too late.
Not too late. Got to start them young. 3 years old.
Yeah.
No, I think it's good, because I think whenever I've seen you, it's the same with James as well. I think I see lots of parents trying to push their kids to try and get into doing it, and I think then it always backfires, and then the kids are like, "Now you're trying to make me do it. I don't want to do it." Whereas I think it was probably the same with as well, when my parents were like, "No, like, you don't want to have it go," and like they don't try and make you or force you to do it. I think it makes you want to do it more.
Yeah, well, that's my exact thing. I was like, I think when you've got a kid, like, you know that most of the time they kind of do the opposite to what you want anyway. So if I said to him to do agility, he'd be less likely to do it. You kind of got to let them find it on your own, haven't you? When you went back then, you look back on when you did start agility, obviously it's quite a different world to what it is now. But if you could go back and give yourself some advice, what would you say to yourself?
Oh, good question. God, you've got all the deep hitting questions, haven't you?
Yeah, don't mess around. Don't mess around on here.
Don't mess around here. I actually have no idea. What would I tell myself?
Come on, you must know more now than you did then.
Yeah, true. In terms of like advice for training.
Well, it could be anything really. I mean, I think for myself, I have not been doing it anywhere near as long as you. I think I've been doing it 7 years now, and there's loads of stuff that I tell myself that, like, I just didn't. You don't understand stuff when you're first starting, do you? So whether it's training advice, whether it's more on a perspective thing or whatever, what do you think you'd have benefited in knowing?
I guess probably one of the biggest things I wish I would have started earlier, which obviously Flash unfortunately paid the price for, was the care of the dogs around agility, e.g. making sure they were fit enough, making sure they have a good diet, making sure they have regular treatment so they don't carry injuries. And I say probably Flash paid the cost for that, because back when I started with Flash, he was just a normal dog. Like, we just did normal dog things, and then we also did agility, but we did quite a lot of it. So nowadays I like to think, okay, I probably do similar amounts of training, but hopefully I keep the dogs in tip-top condition with all the exercises and fitness and treatments around agility to keep them obviously healthy for agility. So Flash has he was diagnosed with a back problem at 5 or 6 years old, and I think a big thing with him as well actually was he was jumping 65 centimeters.
Yeah.
And if he was doing agility now, he'd be intermediate, so that didn't help as well. But definitely care around agility makes the biggest, I would say, difference in agility.
Yeah, and I think it's good to keep that kind of stuff in mind. But again, you can't fault yourself on it. I mean, if you don't know, you don't know, do you? And
No, I guess so. And I think probably back then as well, it was probably for the last 10 years maybe there's been a big point on it. But before then, I think people did get like the dogs treatments and things, but
yeah, not as
nowhere
much.
near like they do nowadays.
Yeah. Well, similar question then, but what advice did you get at the time that you wish you'd ignored?
There's always lots of advice at the back in the day. Shout louder at the dogs, be tougher on them. They're not listening to you. No. Like, looking back, it's like, dude, no, they just didn't understand. Like, we hadn't trained them properly. But there wasn't that much of that advice. But you always get the typical person, don't you? All their border collies, they're used to having old farmers shouting at them. No, not really. not with the dogs we've bred today.
Is there still some advice that you commonly hear and you think, well, that's just terrible advice, but it kind of still prevalent now?
Not too much, I don't think, because I think a lot of the people we speak to or hang around with or teach have all got like very similar training ways and ethics. Like, I think it's not very often I teach people that haven't got a similar thought on training to myself anyway. So
yeah, I think there's definitely
rare.
a lot better information out there now, isn't there?
Yeah, I think so. You always hear people blaming the dogs all the time. Oh, the dog ignored me there.
Yeah.
Like you overhear them at a show, and then you think, well, no, like your body language was exactly what the dog did. So like, but there we are. We all do it. I probably do it as well. So one of those, isn't it? Later on, maybe they'll reflect.
Yeah, you get, like I said, as you learning, you know what to do better next time, isn't it?
Yeah.
So as you've been in the sport, like I say, in your own words, a fairly long time, I'm sure that throughout that time you've had lessons with other people or you've learned off other people. Is there one bit of advice that really sticks with you that you think has been not even the most valuable, but just like one bit of advice that you thought, oh my God, that's made a big difference, or something like that,
I think a lot of things with motivation with Spring was quite hard. We did lots of different things to get him like motivated. So that's probably made, and there was also a change in probably point as well in terms of handling.
Yeah.
So we've gone from non-European handling back in the day to like European handling, which you wouldn't even call it European handling nowadays, would you? It's just handling. Everyone does it, of course. Well, 99%.
Yeah.
So different ways, I think, maybe to get Spring motivated for agility, but like with non-equipment games like toy drive, play. I wouldn't say there's one specific thing. Like, I think you're always learning. Like, even now, you think, I think I can't know any more than what I do now. And then next week you learn something else and you think, oh yeah, that would have helped me 2 years ago. So I think it's always an ongoing learning process, because everything changes. As soon as you think you've mastered one thing, something else gets thrown up.
And that was about the time when you were saying about like I don't know what you'd call it, old style handling, I suppose, compared to like European. Again, to me, it just seems like normal, because when I started doing agility, I think that unknowingly to me, that was at the point agility was at. It was at that transition point where people were changing. So I never knew any different, but it was always quite funny to hear that it was almost like two teams, wasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think the first time I remember, because obviously lots of people had I've seen people do European handling before. I thought, oh, that's really cool. But I remember, I don't know what, maybe it was a champ jumping round or something like that. And Dave was running boss. I'll mention Dave because he likes to mention me in the podcast. We did speak about this run, I think, as well while we were at EOs. And I remember seeing him with Boss Who Doesn't Turn Anyway. He must have done about 15 catches on this course, but he had the best lines, and it probably won the class. And I remember thinking, oh wow, like it really worked for the dog. It looked really cool. Everything was perfect. Like I've seen now how European handling can be used as such an advantage, whereas everyone which didn't do European handling in that run, which was a fair amount of people, because not many people did it in terms of did it back then, and it was really awkward. You had to nag the dog everywhere. You were really turning into them, then facing away, then chucking them at a jump, then the same thing, and it was just really ugly. Whereas when you watched all the European handling on the course, which probably was if we look back on the course, it was probably a hideous course, but it worked a treat doing all the Euro stuff. So I thought, yeah, okay. I'd not really seen loads of positive effects until that run, and then I thought, actually, clearly this is going to be the way forward.
I've spoken to a few people now, and a lot of people have said that like one of the reasons that they decided to transition across is because at first maybe they didn't think that it would be easy to gain success doing it a different way. But when they started seeing other people become successful with it, that's when they decided. So I thought a good question next then is to see, what do you see as success? And up to this point, what has been your biggest success?
What do I see as success? The thing is, I think success is different for everyone, because everyone treats it very differently, don't they? Like, I remember when I first started going to a show, my aim was to get a clear round. It took loads of times, and success for me then was getting around the course without forgetting the course. Or so, and then of course, when you've got a young dog and you're bringing them out, you think, oh, I just want to get the clear, your first clear round. Getting that first clear round, I think's a massive success.
It looks like different things to different people, but for you now, where you are, what is success?
Now
Let me interject quickly now, okay? Because I know why you're stalling. Right. Because you almost, and it's not unnormal, I don't think, but like because of the level that you're able to compete at and because of how successful you have been, it's almost like you feel afraid to say what your level of success is. But I think it's not anything to be, it's not ashamed is the wrong word, but you shouldn't feel worried about saying what your level of success is, because the reason that your level of success is what it is because of the where you're at. So, what do you see as success? You've just won the EOs. Is that success to you, or are you looking for more?
No, it's definitely massive success. But to be honest, genuinely, I'm not even lying here. Before I went into the run in the final, I thought, right, all I need to do, I don't care if I go wrong, but I just can't fall over. That was literally the only thing going through my mind is, okay, I don't mind if I come 5th, 10th, I have 5 faults, just don't fall over. Because like when we're looking back to the Worlds last year, and I think we've timed it many times, Southie would have been world champion if I didn't fall over.
Yeah.
What I was most annoyed about with that is not the point of losing the world championships because of it, but it was the point that I didn't do the best run possible. So I just wanted to go into that EO final and just do the best run possible for myself and not let her down. Yeah. And then the result of winning it was just a massive, massive bonus. So of course, like, we've won the EOs. Obviously, it'd be a dream to go back to the world champs and try and win the world champs, but anything can happen. One pole could come down, the first pole, and it's over for that year. Then you have to wait another year. Something could happen. The dog could fall off a contact, and then it's over for that year. So it's one of those, isn't it, where success is different for every person. But I guess for me, success for all my dogs, not just Southie, would be to try and achieve something internationally with them at the EOs or at the World Champs. So obviously try and get in a medal position would be success, I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's a fair answer as well. And what you're describing there is kind of, rather than focusing on the outcome, is focusing on the process and knowing that if you do the best run that you can, then you're going to have a chance anyway, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. You can only do as best run as you can. And I think everything was just perfect for me in the final of the EOs with Southie. She had a perfect run. She couldn't have really, I couldn't, like, looking back, I don't think there's one thing that could have changed. Maybe
That,
the first bit with the layer.
yeah,
I
I
wouldn't
was
ever
just
have
going to
trusted
say to
that.
you that start of that looked really awkward. Because you kind of had to kind of shimmy behind the wall, wouldn't it, to get the push round on the first.
Yeah, it was super awkward. And it was one of those where if it wasn't the EO final, I probably would have tried the layer, because 2 or 3 people did it. It worked perfect. We have done a very small amount of that, but never off the start line. It's always
Yeah,
been mid-course. So I thought, oh, do I do it? Do I not? And I thought, no, it's way too much for a wrist to do it. So let's just try it the other way. And it worked.
it
So
worked. Yeah, exactly. I
one
mean,
for homework.
I don't blame you for not trying the layer. I think what you did, well, I don't think what you did work. What you did work. You won. So yeah.
Mm,
Um,
yeah, that was good.
when we're talking then about success, do you think it's down to the training? Do you think it's down to the dog? Do you think it's down to the handler? Where's the biggest portion of I don't want to say blame, but what do you think what's the most important?
The thing is, I think you can't put it down to one thing. It's everything. I think it's the dog. Not only has the dog got to have a good brain, they've also got to be built well. I think a few years ago you could probably get away with the dog either having brain or body. We always talk about brain
Yeah.
or body. So is the dog built really well for the sport, or has the dog got a really good brain for the sport? And I think you could get away with having one of those two a few years ago. But I think nowadays the dog's got to have brain and body. Um, you as a handler, I think, have got to be experienced. Obviously, keep your nerve under pressure. You've got to understand the course. Um, you've got to, well, obviously handling. You've got to handle the dog well, but then also I think you've got to prepare the dog physically for the event, make sure they're fit, and also prepare them in terms of some of the trends you might see. So, like we spoke about just then, the first bit of the course for the small final, it would have been much easier to layer, maybe, if I would have prepared with that more, because it was something that could come up. Then I would have done the layer, and then I could have even got a better time. Like, it was quite close in the final, so I could have gained more time maybe doing it if I would have prepared more for that as well.
Yeah.
This for this event, I think it's the most I've ever prepared for an event in terms of my fitness, the dog's fitness. I've got literally over here on my wall, I've got sheets of or pages of information of the dog's fitness plans for strength, the dog's fitness plans for cardio, the dog's training a few weeks before. Then I had a 12-week training plan for them. Then I've got all the judges in a file with all the different sections and all the courses. So there was a huge amount of preparation. I
Well,
don't
I just think it
think
goes to show
it
how
was
much it
one
actually
set thing.
counts, because you got 2 medals. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I'd say, well, this was probably the most successful event I've had. 2 medals, of course.
It's really good. Yeah.
I think
Jesus.
last year at the Worlds, I was so close as well. Obviously,
Yeah.
with Southie not getting the gold, but also with
Yeah.
Snooze, he was 1 pole off getting silver medal in the individual. So, yeah, I think all the preparation, I did a lot of prep for that year as well. Not so much with Southie because she was a little bit younger. This year, I thought I could push her a little bit more, but definitely with Snooze, I did a lot of prep last year and shape a lot of prep this year.
Well,
And
it
I
must be
think
a
it's
good
paying off.
feeling to know that kind of the prep you're doing is obviously the right things to get 2 medals. Kind of gives confirmation of that, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think so. And also, I think this year we had a massive advantage at European Opens because it was run on grass. It
Yes.
was wet. It was a little bit slippery. And they're all things that GB as a whole are used to doing, whereas a lot of other countries aren't. So that was definitely a massive advantage for us.
So in agility then, because like obviously we've had one of the bigger competitions just gone, EOs. Is there anyone who, and I don't want to say it from like a fangirl point of view, when I say who do you admire, but is there anyone who you like try to emulate with their training or their handling, or is there anyone that you think, oh, that's someone I'd like to kind of work towards having some kind of skill similar to them? Who do you look up to?
I look up to a few different
And I
people. Of
tell you what,
course,
you're
I've
not
been
allowed to
training
say
with Kate.
anyone in GB because otherwise the people might get butthurt by it if you don't mention them. So
Okay,
I'll take that out of the
okay.
equation for you.
We'll take GB out of the equation. That's good. Could you imagine
I
the shit that
know.
Dave would have if we didn't mention him? Jesus Christ. Um, um, Of course, Southie's breeder, Tobias. I think he does, like, we go over and train with him. Um, the skills he has, which obviously I think most people don't see because most people see him running in competition. So they see him running around with the dog, but the independence and the understanding the dogs have of the different pieces of equipment, like when you see him train and then you see all the distance and layering stuff he can do with all of his dogs as well, not just the border collies, but the shouties. I'm like, okay, Selfie needs to be able to do and understand the equipment like his shouties do, because he can just, I don't know, stand there, like literally not move. The dog's going off the dog walk, heading towards one thing. He says weave or Salem, and the dogs will go, oh, okay, you've said that word, and then completely change direction, divert, and go and find that piece of equipment for word on the word. So it's definitely, I want the dogs to have skills like all of his.
Yeah. And because of the way that agility is changing, I think it's getting more and more important that they've got that verbal discrimination because of the general amount of obstacles that are sometimes in the handler path. So because of
Yeah.
how much agility is changing, what do you see? Well, what would you like to see as the future agility and the impact that it'll have on us as dog trainers and the dogs? How do you see it? Where is it going?
So there's definitely more aspect on safety in the UK. So hopefully it will keep improving with regards to tunnels, soft wall, soft long jump will just be standard. Like I think we'll look back in a few years' time and see the wooden or the aluminium or even the plastic pieces of equipment that we used, and we're like, oh my God, how could we ever even put our dogs over them? We're definitely going to have more and more layering at speed. And then one thing I was actually thinking of the other day, I think someone posted it on the internet and they were like, oh, what piece of equipment would you like to see added to agility? And that actually got me thinking, because I thought, well, over the last few years we've taken away pieces of equipment, haven't we? Like we've got rid of equipment, but we've never actually introduced a new piece of equipment.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking that is actually like a very good point. Like, why are we not trying to think or consider new piece of equipment? Because if we keep taking away from things and not adding back, it does take away that little bit of variety. Like even something stupid like a they use a barrel in hoopers, don't they? Like even something stupid like that, it would just add something different into agility. And I'm sure there's lots of other things that could be added, and that would keep things, I don't know, keep things evolving and not just going, oh, we're going to take away the flat tunnel and then never replace it with anything. Which obviously I'm glad the flat tunnel's been taken away. Don't get me wrong, but it is nice to have variety on course and not just have jumps and tunnels.
Can have a ball chucker section.
Could you imagine? Hold on. Wow. So I think that's also one thing that broke Flash back in the day. He loved a ball chuck. So
Oh, did he?
obviously
Yeah.
I don't do that now. But yeah, it definitely made him fit, but it also made his back break. So don't do that.
Yeah. So you're saying about like adding things in agility. What if you could change one rule, what rule would you change then?
One rule, what would I change? I think the most obvious rule for me would be in regards to tunnels, and I would make sure they're all non-slip surface. Like people always say, oh, the non-slip tunnels are worse than the standard tunnels we get, but I just don't see it. Like I've ran under every surface: sand with wax, astroturf, wet conditions, dry conditions. My experiences have always been positive. So I would have that, but then I'd also change it so all the tunnels have to be a bright color. I think having a yellow tunnel compared to a blue tunnel makes a massive difference.
Yeah,
so I would only allow yellow tunnels. I would only have anti-slip tunnels, and I would only have them on loose arcs as well, rather than, I think that's where dogs will hurt themselves, on the tighter lines. So loose arcs for tunnels, non-slip surface, and also yellow only.
just some conformity between the tunnels, then maybe.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Don't get me started on tunnels.
Yeah, it is a. It's a. Yeah, I get where you're coming from. Okay, so in agility, then I'm gonna give you the option of one per height, but also you don't have to do every height if you don't want to. And you're not
Right.
allowed to steal any of your friends' dogs again, so no one gets upset. You can
No,
steal a dog, one from every height. Who's are you stealing? What large, what intermediate, what medium, and what small?
Well, I have to say we're still Cashew for medium, but I have ran him once at competition. When I was in Germany, I ran him it was a freaking disaster. But he was great fun to run. I literally had a bit of cheese and he was perfect. He didn't care where anyone else was. Like,
Nice.
how many shouties can just run with a
I was going
different
to say
handler? They
that's
have
not
no
a
idea
common
who they
thing, is
are.
it? Yeah.
No, but he was perfect. I just didn't handle him well. So definitely Cashew. I'd like to run him. He's such a cool dog. Let's think. Who else? I'm trying to think of a really wild dog for large. Trying the international one. I would say with Teresa Say as well. I think that's an amazing dog. You
Yeah.
know, it'd be amazing to run that dog. It's slightly older now, but you know, a few years ago that would have been just incredible to run. Small dog. Let's try and think of a small dog.
We've got a couple of good small dogs in this country as well. Obviously, Selfie's one, but there's some others, isn't there?
Yeah, there are some really good smalls coming through. Actually, I'm excited for the next few years. But it's hard because I can't go towards the Spaniels. Come on, I've got to keep loyal,
Sure,
keep
true,
loyal to the shouties
true.
here.
I tell you one Sheltie who I like is I think it's called Aggie or Aggie. It's Kirsty Jorgensen's from Norway. It's a black Sheltie.
Sounds familiar. Does
Ag,
sound familiar.
Aggie or Aggie, I'm not sure how you say it. It's AGI. But Kirsty,
Yeah.
and her name is Kirsty, but with a J in it, so it's Kirsty.
Yeah.
A
Okay. Oh
really cool
God.
dog. I'm not a Sheltie aficionado like yourself, Mark. So you might think differently, but it's a nice dog.
No, I think I know who it is. Yeah. But to be fair, I was never a shouty, whatever you said. My pronunciation would be bad. Before Selfie, I was very like, they're quite cute, but I'm not really sure. But then I don't know. You have one, and I think you learn to love the breed.
I was going to
So
say, will you always have a Sheltie? Do you think now?
I can't see myself not. Um, I think next definitely Border Collie,
Yeah,
and then after that, I would really love another Shouty as well.
yeah,
So I think it makes more sense. Border Collie, Shouty, Border Collie, Shouty. I think it's good to have different heights. Hopefully, the Shouty doesn't grow to intermediate or large.
yeah. Not
um,
ideal.
but yeah, I think definitely having a small medium dog and an intermediate large dog is definitely better than having two of the same height. I think you get penalised too much for having two of the same height, especially in the UK.
Yeah,
I think it's frowned upon. Olympia, you can't take more than one height, can you? And then with the teams as well, I think it's
yeah. It's
better to have
much harder
different
to get
heights.
two in on the same height, isn't it?
I would be politically correct and say it's much favoured upon to have different heights rather than have dogs in the same height.
I agree, and a good way of wording it as well. Who then are your favourite judges? And you don't have to. I will again. I'll allow you to not get in trouble. No GB ones internationally. You can give me
No
a
GB ones. International one.
top three. You don't have to do them in order. Top three favourites.
Top three, I think Alex Bouty. I can never pronounce his surname, but I'm sure you
Beetle
know
or
who I mean.
Beetle?
Beetle, something along those lines. I think I've been following his courses a little bit leading up because he's doing the World Champs
Yeah.
this year. I think his courses are really fast, really clever, really fun. You've got Yoke Tangle
Yes.
Flout. I've never actually ran any of his courses,
He's
but
been
on
iconic.
paper they all look so much fun.
Yeah.
So I think his look really, really cool. And then I always love Tamas's and also Daniel Voltz's courses. So
Good
I
judges.
think
Then.
I've added another one in there, but
You
I
have, but
think
I'll allow
they're some
it.
of the top four ones I look for. Allow it.
Allow it. You're allowed. So we move on to some kind of like non-agility types of questions then.
Here we go. Here we go.
Here we go. Now we get to know your enemy the most. Who knows you the best?
Are we including Nara or not Nara?
Well, I would say, yeah, Nara obviously would be the person who knows you the best. I would have assumed that. Let's say not including Nara.
I think not including Nara, it probably has to be Dave. I think we've probably known each other one of the longest out of agility. We've probably spoken and had like more trips away over the time as well. So I'd probably say Dave.
Fair.
Note as well, I've said Dave, when someone asked Dave about this, he was on about his uni friends, which he hasn't. Oh yeah, who's your best friend? Oh yeah, my uni friends. Oh yeah, the ones you haven't spoken to in about 15 years. Right, cheers for that.
They don't
We're
even
never going to
remember
live that
Dave's
one down
name.
either. Just because he's got a little tortoise tattoo on his leg where he went on holiday with them one time. That's it. Oh yeah, ridiculous.
What do you think people misunderstand about you the most then?
I think people probably misunderstand the most that maybe they think I'm not very like talkative or jump in and say hello or really throw myself into those situations like at shows and at training, but it's actually more because I'm shy rather than I don't want those conversations. I
Yeah.
think people who get to know me more and more and more and I feel like really comfortable with them, then I am quite a talkative person, enjoy talking, but I am actually very shy to people
Yeah.
I've not spoken to and I'm not super confident with.
Again, I think it's partly similar to my situation, really, is because like you've got an online platform as well. Do you want to plug it? Go on.
Well, I've got a few, but we'll
Yeah.
go for intershapeagility.com.
Yeah, well, because you got into shape and obviously you've got lots of people who are following along with that, you're on there and you're talking a lot. So they assume that you're quite naturally outgoing. And this is the same for me because, like, in my sessions, I'm trying to be as outgoing as and engaging as possible. But ultimately, you're doing it to a camera. So it's not the same as when
Yeah,
you're speaking to people. And yeah, if I see someone who like I know is one of my clients, it's not that I don't want to go and speak to them, but I don't personally know them. So I don't feel
no,
like it should be me going up to someone to go to speak to them because like I don't know if they want me to. Do you know what I mean? It's kind of you give off this
yeah,
false and not even a false perception. It's not your fault, but like there's an idea that you're an outgoing, naturally will go up to extrovert type of person. But really, yeah, it's just a case of you don't know if they want you to, really, isn't it? And it's can often
no,
be
it's super
misunderstood as
awkward.
being like, yeah, being kind of standoffish, but really, it's just yeah, don't feel super comfortable
And
approaching people.
confident. No, and like when a couple of people over the years like have like spoken to me and said, "Oh, you know, we're on the website, we really like it. It feels like I know you so well because we've watched all the videos." And like it actually like makes me feel like really good for it. So it's definitely a positive thing. And if someone comes over and is like very outgoing with me, instantly I just feel like
More at ease, yeah.
not like the confidence comes back, yeah, and I can talk and be happy, but I am quite an unconfident and shy person, especially to people who who I don't know very well. So yeah, I think sometimes that gets mistaken for ignorance, but it's really not. I promise.
What are the things you're most proud of?
Most proud, I think, if we're going for the years, Spring had so many championship ticket wins. That's one of the biggest things because I think it's a big achievement for me just to try and get as many as possible.
How many did you get?
Of course, 13,
Oof,
the
big.
unlucky number. I know, so unlucky. I actually remember winning my 13th ticket and thinking, in my head, I thought, oh, that'll be it, 13, that's it, I'm done. Obviously thinking, I'll probably get one or two more, and then COVID hit, and that was literally,
Oh,
bam, that was it. And I was like, disaster. I was right. I actually am finishing on unlucky 13, but maybe it's lucky
I was going
13.
to say maybe it's lucky for Spring, yeah.
Maybe it's lucky. And then, of course, Southeast medals, third at the World Championship last year, and then first at European Opens this year, which is just crazy.
And she's still so
Shape
young
winning
too.
Crufts Championship.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that was a massive one because although Crufts, I think more and more it doesn't reflect agility so much anymore because the courses are so different, the arena's so small compared to what we see. I'd say the courses are very different. Oh, I can't remember. Rambling about Crufts, but still, it was one of the biggest achievements I think to date because that's how people get into it. They watch Crufts, they see the event, that's what they want to do. So to go there, and I didn't think I could win it, and then to win it was like, wow, crazy. So
So it's been a good year, Mart.
it has been a good year. It has been a good year. Hopefully, it's not over yet.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's still some stuff to go as well, for sure. So we go again, kind of carrying on for that. Then is what do you think of as your biggest failure, but what did you learn from it as well?
Mm. My biggest failure, definitely, I think I can look back to last year, World Championships, Snooze's individual run, so large run. The jumping course, he was super good. I think it was a late teens or early 20s. I think it was late teen
Yeah, I think
position,
you were
which
18.
for a jumping run, you know more than me.
Yeah, done my
But for a
research.
jumping run with him, yeah, that is really, really good because I think we all know he's not the quickest dog in the world, and you've got the quickest dogs in the world there, and it wasn't a super technical course. So that was an amazing result. And then to go into the agility round where it was a crazy difficult course,
Yeah,
but I believed we could do all of it. Like I believed we could do it. When I saw the course map, I thought, oh my God, this is perfect for us because so many people will go wrong. And I think he has the skills to do all of this. He had pole number 2 on a backside wrap. And I remember thinking, these are the ones he takes all the time. Push him wide, give him an extra stride. I thought I did. I didn't. Cost us a silver medal. Fucked it right up. Livid with myself. Absolutely livid. Like beyond, like, I couldn't even think for hours. I was so annoyed.
yeah. It was such a, obviously when that course came up as well. I knew that you'd have a good chance at it because, like you said, Snooze has got good skills, and you're a capable handler of getting to the places that I think other people were concerned with. And it was a good
Mm,
mixture, wasn't it? It was one of those courses that, like, you could kind of get places, but you did still need skills. So it was, obviously, it was testing.
mm,
I mean, I think that
yeah.
course will be remembered for a long time, won't it?
Yeah, there were so many handling choices as well, which was good. So not only was the option choices for the dogs, but also handling choices. Did you layer? Did you try and run round? Did you front cross? Did you rear cross? Did you blind cross? Like there was so many options that I think that's what agility should be. Handling options, choices for the dog's line, and then the execution of the handling. So
What do you like? Did
yeah.
you think that course was too hard for a champ, for not a champ final, for a Europe, was a world final? Was it too hard?
No, I don't think so because I think everyone trains all of those skills. Everyone trains layers to the weaves, which was the first section. I think the bit before made it a little bit awkward because if the dog went into the tunnel under the dog walk at an angle, it would really throw them off. But I think hopefully I identified that. So when Snooze jumped long, I literally waited, wrapped him around my leg, lined him up so we were going in a straight line into the tunnel, and then he was lined up dead for the weave. So I think there was always options.
Yeah.
There was always choices. No, I don't think it was too hard. If we saw that again this year, I'd be like, oh, cool, this is good. This is
Yeah.
what agility should be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I wasn't in it, so I felt like my view didn't matter. But I always thought as well, like you say, if you'd have put if you'd have put any of those things up in a separate part, so as separate things, you'd
Mm,
have been like, yeah, I can do that, or I can do that, or I can do that. But it was just the fact it was all together. And I
yeah.
think that's what caught a lot of people out, is the fact that it was all together. But like, it was a world final. So I think the
Mm,
balance is very,
yeah.
very close to whether it was too hard or not. And
Mm.
I didn't mind watching it. I understand, though, the frustration from people competing in it. So it was, yeah, it was interesting to hear your
Yeah,
thoughts.
but I think it was the first half of the class where it was like elimination, elimination,
Yeah,
elimination. But then actually, as the class went on, there wasn't that many clear rounds, but there was so many if onlys,
yeah,
like
yeah,
one pole away or one weave entry away or one contact away. So, and I think the thing I also liked about the course was there was no repetitive skill tests.
yeah.
Like it wasn't backside, backside, backside. There was a different skill test at every I don't know how to say it, but there was a different skill test on every section. It wasn't just like, can the dog do a backside? Can the dog do a
Yeah,
backside?
yeah.
It was, can the dog do a backside? Then can it do an independent seesaw? Then can it do independent weaves? Can it do a threadle? Can it do a dog walk exit? Like there was, everything was different.
It was a big test, wasn't it?
Mm, it was. I want to say up actually. We should say up and train it. It'd be fun.
I did it afterwards just because I wanted to have a go. It was good. It was
Did
good to
you?
train on.
Were you clear? Were you clear? Come on.
I didn't go clear. I got the weaves, which I was pleased with, but then I messed up the bit after the A-frame where you ran round.
Yeah, that bit was more awkward than I thought it was going to be actually.
Yeah, well, I basically, yeah, it makes no difference. I don't know why I'm telling you this, but I waited too long, and then I didn't get to where I needed to be. So he flicked away from me and kind of went back to the weaves rather than take the jump. after the tunnel.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
good. Like I said, it was a good fun course. And again, I get that for me, there was nothing on it, so I could have fun. For a lot of people, though, their whole year.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I get it. And like I said, I do understand people's frustrations, but I also think that it was a good course to watch. Personally,
Yeah.
I thought.
But also, I think it's crazy that if you studied the judge leading up to the event, literally on
Yeah,
50% or more of his courses,
tunnel
he
to weave.
always did a layered tunnel to weaves on the dog walk. Like, it was obvious that was going to come up, and it came up twice over his
Yeah,
courses. So I don't know how people hadn't seen that and then thought, right, my skill layer into the weaves from the dog walk needs to be amazing, because it was going to come up.
yeah.
It just was.
If you've got a crystal ball and you can look into the future, what do you want to know? It's a good one, isn't it? Good question.
What don't I want to know?
Yeah,
That's
you
the
get one
question.
thing. You're not allowed to look at everything, by the way. I should have said that.
One thing. Will I become a UFC fighter? Probably not.
I think that's a really hard one, because it's like, do you even want to know, or do you just kind of want to? Yeah.
Yeah, the thing is, I don't think I'd want to know, because I think it takes away all the anticipation, and I think that's everything, isn't it? Like, if I knew I was going to go to the EOs and win the EO final, you wouldn't get that, or you wouldn't get the fight to prepare beforehand.
Yeah, you might not have done the prep.
You wouldn't be excited at the event. You wouldn't get nervous, and that's part and parcel of the enjoyment, is the excitement. So I don't think I'd want to know anything.
Yeah, it's like that question, isn't
I
it?
guess
Would
I'd
you want to know how you were going to die? I mean, I don't think I would.
Definitely not. Definitely not. But I don't know, maybe more less agility terms, but more like in 5 years or 10 years, where will I be living? Like, will you have that dream house with the land,
Yeah.
or not? I don't know. That's probably something I think about a lot. Where will I be in 5 years and 10 years in terms of living facilities and all of that?
Yeah, that's a fair one. We're going to go on to some quick fire questions now. It doesn't need much context behind it, but maybe we'll tell people a lot about you. What do you have for breakfast?
Right. I had the worst breakfast this morning. I had digestives with a cup of tea, but usually I have been trying to have Greek yogurt and granola, but this morning I didn't.
Okay. What was the last thing you Googled? No lying.
No lie. Thankfully, I've been looking at garden fences. They're all good. I googled we've got a section in our garden which I need to try and section off so the chickens have got more room and then the dogs don't go on the stones, because then it would just be much easier. So I can't remember what it's called. Some like trellises for fencing. Nothing exciting.
When did you last sing, and what song was it?
We sing quite a bit. Terribly usually. I've got no tune to me whatsoever.
Same.
I can't remember what it was. Nara basically sang at me the other day in the car, and I tried to join in. But it was terrible. I can't even remember. I'm terrible with words as well. I can literally hear a song 1,000 times and not know any of the words.
Do you just make your own lyrics up?
Well, I just hum along. Do, do, do. That's about as far as I go.
Do you play any instruments?
No, I was always useless. I'd have loved to, but I was always useless. I'm not musical at all.
Do you believe in ghosts?
Yeah, I would say. I'm always on the fence with these questions. I guess I'd say yes, because I do think there are not spirits. Spirits are the wrong words, but there are altered beings or doings, maybe.
Altered states.
There's aliens coming. I'm telling you.
Yeah, I think that.
I'm telling you that for a fact.
It's weird how like aliens get lumped in with ghosts, but I feel like aliens are far more likely than ghosts. I don't know. I mean, that's just me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, aliens. And like, come on, the pyramids. I'm addicted to knowing about these things. It's ridiculous. How did they exist? Something weird's been going on in the last thousands of years that no one knows about.
There's a program on Netflix by a guy called Graham Hancock, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it's called, but that's to do. I think it's like unknown civilizations. Or people who've watched this will
Yeah.
be shouting at the screen to tell me. I can't remember, but it was really good program.
Yeah, no, I've watched
Lost
all of that, and
Lost
I've watched
Civilizations, maybe something like that.
yeah, I've watched all of those things. I feel he was on the Joe Rogan podcast as well.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm on the Rogan podcast as well of agility.
yeah,
So yeah, I've watched all of that, all of the pyramids. But the more information you get to do with the pyramids, the more like all of the stories they tell you just don't make any sense.
yeah.
So
It's a rabbit hole for sure, isn't it? If you've got a superpower, then what would you be? What would your superpower be?
I would love to fly.
Fly. It's a good one. It's a good one.
Mm.
So this next one, I think, is the most important question, and it's the one that we'll give you before you go. So I have a superpower, and my superpower is I can give you the power to have a conversation with your dog that it will understand entirely for 10 to 20 seconds. What would you tell them in those 10 to 20 seconds?
Ooh. Oh.
So
You see the numbers. 1, 2, 3, and 20, maybe 22 in some situations. Just read them.
Yeah.
Just read them. Some of the new numbers have even got the numbers printed on the back, so even if it's a backside, you can still see them.
Yeah. Teach them how to count. That's a fair answer.
Teach them how to count. Now, if I was being serious, I think the easiest thing would be to talk to the dogs to be like, just be chill in everyday life and like be easy. It'll make your life easier, make everyone's life easier. Just behave.
Yeah. Don't be a dick.
Yeah, exactly. Don't be a dick.
Yeah. Okay. And I think that's it for us, Mark. So thank you so much for coming on. We've had a little bit of a plug for your website, but is there anything else that you'd like to talk about and tell people to go and have a look at?
I think the biggest thing is the website. I think that's the thing we probably work the most on. So if you didn't hear earlier on, www.intershapeagility.com. I do think genuinely, I'm not just saying this, but I do think it is probably the best online platform for the money you can get. So I think it's quite cheap. Everyone can afford it. And then I do have
what's it about? What's on there? Just in case some people don't know, what's on Into Shape Agility?
So it's online agility training. It basically covers like everything. I genuinely think it covers everything. We've got different puppy diaries on there. So all of Southie's puppy diaries, which were recorded at the time, they're all on there. So you can see exactly what I do with her from the moment I get her at 10, 11 weeks. I think I went over for a few weeks to have her before I could bring her back over. So you've got all of that up till basically when she starts competing. You've got bananas as well from Nara. You've got all of how to train pieces of equipment, running dog walk, stop dog walk, seesaw, jump skills, fitness for the dogs, not for the handlers. Don't take away that from you.
Yes, editing that
out. Cut that one out.
Yeah.
No handler fitness, just some basics for dog fitness, course running, handling, basically everything you can think of which is to do with agility is on there, and even life skills. And I think it's affordable. I think it starts from $16.75 per month, which I think for agility training, considering most of the time you'll spend 40 to 50 quid for one session,
Yeah.
I think is very, very good value. You also get a support group as well, so you can go on Facebook, and we've got a private group for all the members, so you can ask questions, feedback. We have some Q&As, and also recently started giving away some prizes as well. So yeah, lots of different things with that. I think it's a great community.
So if people want to ask you about it, how do they get hold of you?
They can go to the website, intershapeagility.com. They can message me just direct on my normal Facebook profile. We've got a Facebook page as well, Intershape Agility. We probably should adventure into the role of Instagram and TikTok as well, maybe.
That's where I'm at as well, Mark, wondering whether I should. I'm not very good at social media, but I'm always told you should get on this.
Definitely should do more.
Well, thank you very much for coming on and giving us your time, Mark. This was a pleasure, as always, speaking to you.
No problem. Thanks for having me. Having me.
And I'll see you soon.
See you soon. Got to get back to me gardening now, haven't I? And doing me trestles, or whatever you call them. Trellises.
All right. Ta-da. And that is the end of the podcast. Thank you for taking some time out of your day to listen. I really hope you enjoyed. If you think you might know someone else who would enjoy, feel free to pass on all the information and share the podcast with them. And get involved on any of the social media platforms. It really helps the podcast grow, and I really appreciate it. See you in the next one.